Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We're going to encourage people to move toward the middle and the front, so that way also when people trickle in, which they will, it will be easier for them to kind of sneak in the back or the side somewhere. So come on in. Don't. Great. I know we have some other people who will be joining us. So we are really honored this morning to be joined by two of the really incredible people who are part of Kulanu Chatuvim, We Are All Hostages, who are currently on a trip in the States, really for the first time since October 7th, and they were in D.C. this week, which we'll talk about later, and they have been the leaders of the protest movement these last many months in opposition to the current decisions that are being made and really fighting for a hostage deal and to end this war as soon as possible and to bring their families home. And they were in D.C. this week when Netanyahu spoke in Congress, which they'll speak about as well, and really here to hold up what really matters in this moment and to clarify the messaging that has really been quite confused here in the States, and to make very clear to us exactly what is happening and how we can be best of service to them and their families in this moment. So joining us today are Efrat and Zahiro, who both will speak a bit about their experiences and their families' experiences on October 7th and in the aftermath. And then I will engage them with some different questions, and then we'll open it up at the end for a few questions from all of you. And we're just so grateful for both of you for joining us this morning. And I know that you've been a million places, and we're really grateful that we are one of those stops. So thank you for being here. We'll just start with both of you sharing a little bit about your stories and telling us about your family and where we find you in this moment.
So I'll start. I think everyone can hear me, right? Cool. No? No worries. Now? Okay, yeah. That's a good response. Hi, everyone. I'm Zahiro. My formal name is Shachar Mor. Everyone calls me Zahiro. I'm the nephew of Abraham Munder, age 79. He just turned 79 in December. He was abducted from his house in Kibbutz Nir Oz. Separately, I mean, together at the same time, but separately destination-wise, were also my auntie Ruth, my cousin Karen, and their grandson Ohad, who was 9 years old back then. They were all kidnapped, and the three of them, apart from Abraham, they actually didn't know that Abraham is alive until they returned 49 days later in the first day of the hostage exchange deal. They thought Abraham was dead because the last they seen of him, he was lying face down, surrounded by 3 or 4 militants. And they thought, no way, Munder can get to Gaza. He uses a cane. He's 78, and he has trouble walking, and he has poor eyesight, and he has a lot of preconditions as some 78-year-olds tend to have. And there's no way he could get to Gaza. Apparently, he's still there. We have no sign of life from him ever since January. The best sign of life for him was at the last day of the hostage exchange deal, which was like day 54. I remind you, today we are day 290 something. And yeah. So back then, the last day of the release, the hostage release deal, a lady named Nili Margalit, who is a medical nurse at Soroka Medical Center in the Negev, she was released, and she was telling us, she told us that she was taking care of the elderly from Nir Oz, and my uncle was one of them. And she told us that his condition is getting better after apparently he was driven to Gaza on the backside of a motorcycle, pressed between two militants, and they fell on the way, and he was bruised and scratched all over. And she said that his condition is getting better because she was taking care of him and changing the bandages and stuff. Back then, they were staying above ground, okay? Now, the place that he was kept in was occupied by the IDF, so we know for a fact that he was moved. And the medical nurse that was nursing them is no longer with them. And I'm thinking, you know, in the tunnels there's 100% relative humidity. How can bandages, you know, even get dry enough to and so we don't know. There's no sanitary conditions apparently over there, and no sunlight, and it's, you know, very gentle and shy and he's my uncle. Yeah. Also, maybe important to notice that Abraham was a war hero. He was one of the people who freed Jerusalem in '67, and he was injured in the Givat HaTachmoshet, if anyone knows of this place. It's a very known place in Jerusalem where a lot of people got killed and a lot of people got wounded. And he came back from the war with not only his leg wound, but also he was carrying something. And for the past 15 years, hearing this shelling going over his head and the air raid alarm saying that, you know, it's called Tseva Adom, and in Nir Oz, in Kibbutz Nir Oz, where he was staying, you have, after you hear Tseva Adom, you have 10 seconds to get to the safe place. Okay, now think about a 78-year-old man using a cane that needs to, and he was freaked out, actually freaked out. There was one hit in Kibbutz Nir Oz like 9 years ago that his friend was killed from a direct hit, and he didn't leave the safe house for 2 years. Okay? He didn't come to my father's birthday, which is like 40 minutes drive, because he wouldn't take the chance of being, you know, out of range. And then they took him from his safe house. Okay? His worst nightmare actually came true. They also, I had a cousin named Ro'i, their son, Abraham and Ruth's son. He was living like 300 meters from his parents' home. He was driving them to medical care, and he was really devoted son, and he had no family of his own. And he was killed that Saturday. They torched his house down, and when he was running out, they shot him. He still is one of the casualties of Nir Oz. Nir Oz, the community of 360 members, 104 were either killed or abducted, kidnapped in that Saturday. I think this is the community, this is the kibbutz that got hit the hardest. The name Nir Oz is not mentioned a lot in Israeli media because it's too much of an embarrassment. Apparently in Nir Oz, there was no fight. After the terrorists killed the 4 people that were like, you know, the National Guard of this place, the guys that had, mind you, pistols. The government took the M16s and gave them pistols because they were afraid that the guns will be stolen. This is the official excuse, okay? So after killing the 4 of them, the terrorists pretty much could do whatever they want in the kibbutz, and they did it for like several hours. They came really early, like 6:30, and they left 3 p.m. The first IDF soldier entered Nir Oz at 4 p.m. Okay? There was no battle. I visited Nir Oz. When I visited, there was still looting packets. People, you know, ordinary people from Gaza getting in, seeing all kind of kitchen appliances, putting them inside some sleeping bag and putting them near the path, so when they come back, they can carry it back to Gaza and then forgetting about it. And it's all over. Like there were tons of people in Iroz, tons of people. Not only the first wave, but they had plenty of time. Think about it, 6:30 to 3 p.m. Okay. So this is the story of my family, and this is, my auntie came back, my cousin came back, their son, Ohad, their only grandson, okay? And their life is in status. They are waiting. They can't even begin the healing process. They can't really mourn Roy, my cousin, because something is fractured. Okay? Something is missing, and until this situation will be remediated, we can't do anything. We can't win a war in Gaza. We can't do anything, really. Really. The fracture is so deep. And those ripples, and, my kids, my kids have some issues, and others, the family, the larger family, like my father, who is, God bless him, is 87 soon in August. Well, 87. He had some preconditions, like all the people, and his situation was getting much worse. He's deteriorated since, mentally, cognitively, since October 7th. There's so much he needs to process, and he can't talk about it. So, yeah. So this is the October 7th. Now, ever since October 7th, I've been trying first, and then I came across some fellow, fellow, I don't want to paint it in any direction. The people that thought more or less the same as I do about the situation, about whose responsibility is the situation, about what is needed to be done about the situation. And we've been struggling since to push our message through. We've been doing this for the past, I don't know, as a group we started, I think, January, like really started January. But I remember myself, the third day after, like October 10th, I remember myself, with a sign against the Kiryat, the central army headquarters, פושעי נירוז לדין, the criminals of Niroz should be trialed. Yes, so struggling ever since, getting a lot of heat from every direction. In normal life, I'm 52 years old, I have 3 kids, I live in Tel Aviv, I work for Citigroup Banking in Israel. This is not the life I'm used to, of course, but I think I'm, without sounding too dramatic, there's a mission here. There's a mission here that I need to do. Okay, and this is not only my personal mission, and I came across a lot of people who think it's their mission too, and it warms the heart every time to see people, even not from the families itself, that are so committed and so, and you can see it in their eyes. That they say, we are with you, and you can see that they are, and this is, as you can imagine, this brings a lot of strength and courage to go on, because there are personal prices, of course, and there's a lot of heat. Like a week ago, my son was bullied in his summer camp, daily summer camp by one of the kids, and he told him that your father is ruining the country. Okay, and he was, how come they're saying these things about my father? Yeah. So there are personal prices and there are ripples, and in a way we are all hostages. There are hostage families for sure in the first line. We feel that, we can't even normally say what we really think, because the Israeli media paints a very different picture of what goes on than what you guys are getting. And of course, every word of criticism against the government is immediately painted as anti-Semitism or auto-anti-Semitism or whatever BS name they can, and a lot of people, say the world's gone crazy this past couple of years, for sure, for many reasons. But this is now, I don't know, a struggle I found myself in. I think I talked enough. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions later, and I'll let Efrat.
Thank you so much, Zahira. Thank you. I feel like you really helped us just really understand what this time has been like for you and your family, and I think we know that in this community we all hold so much grief and heartbreak for so many reasons these last 9 months, and even more so for all of you. So thanks for sharing. Efrat, if you want to share a little bit.
Thank you very much for coming. It's really highly appreciated. I know it's a Saturday. Probably everybody needs some rest, so thank you for being here. Talking about pain and mourning, I would like just to notice the terrible loss of lives yesterday at the Druze village of Majd al-Shams, where a Hezbollah rocket hit and killed 10 little boys, wounded 6 severely, and a few more. So I think we will end up with about 20 casualties, age 10 to 20. And these are the future brave Druze soldiers that are protecting our country and are being treated unfairly. To our story. My name is Efrat Cohen Machikawa. I'm a Cohen forever. Machikawa is for marriage. And it's Japanese. I spent over 20 years in Tokyo. Came back only to really fulfill my mission as a lecturer and a daughter of those who actually were the pioneers to build up Kibbutz Nir Oz. Can you hear me like this? No? I have to be close. May I take this
We
off?
can extend it.
Yeah, thank you. It's like, thank you very much. Yeah. So my parents, age 86, are. Yeah, אני רוצה להסתיר אותו. So my parents were the pioneers to build Kibbutz Nir Oz, and my father's sister and her husband, Gadi Moses, came after. They are exactly from the group of the Munders. And we don't live now in Nir Oz. We live in a Moshav Lachish, which is not too far, but we have a very, very large family in the kibbutz. It's a very long story. That Saturday lasts from October 7th till today. There isn't a way we can really describe what has happened. We need a year or more. We will actually need 100 years, I think. But truly, just to be very punctual, on that Saturday, we had 9 family members in Kibbutz Nir Oz. 3 survived, and with a miracle. Their house were not burnt, and all the houses around were with people inside them, Holocaust style. 6 were abducted. 4 came back in a deal. Age 77, Margalit Moses, Doron Katzasher and her 2 little daughters age 3 and 5, came back. Efrat Katz, Gadi Moses' partner, and a lovely, lovely aunt for the last 23 years, was killed by a IDF helicopter that saw the terrorists carrying people to Gaza, hit some of them. No one knows what happened, and the helicopter disappeared. She was killed on the way. And Gadi was the first to be kidnapped from the whole family and yet to come back. He turned 80 in March. He is a well-known, worldwide known wastewater specialist and agronomist that is helping communities around the world for over 50 years to overcome poverty through the wastewater and special crops that goes with it, such as potatoes and carrots. He has been from Papua New Guinea to Vietnam to South America to Egypt for 2 years, to Jordan, to working with Palestinians for all his life, till the day he was kidnapped. He is a man of freedom, he is a man of friendships, he is a man of knowledge. He is adored by anyone who sees this smile. So on that day, when he heard Arabic language spoken in his own living room, and he knew there are 4 more girls, his wife, her daughter, and the 2 granddaughters in the safe room, he pretended he was just alone in the house and went out to talk to them. He told the Efrat, "Don't you worry. I get along with any person all around the world. I know how to do this." Little did he know that it was his life and not his passport's money or good whiskey that he's holding in his house. So they took him. And then they didn't know what to do. And they thought they were saved, but another raid came and another group came and they were taken. Kibbutz Nir Oz really did suffer the most. 1 of 4. An average American family of 4 people, 1 would be gone, either dead, slaughtered, burned, raped, or kidnapped while being raped and tortured. Kibbutz Nir Oz is a community of peace activists. We think it's about 85 to 90% of peace activists who were there because they believed of good neighborhood and how to develop the area, how agriculture and productive work is so needed in Israel. They're really, the innovation of agriculture is an amazing example of what the world, leading innovation. It's just extraordinary. No one heard of Nir Oz because it was a very quiet, small, and humble place. One of the worst things that happened, part of the fact that Zahir already shared with you, that, do you need Dad for a second? Yeah. Okay. So, a mother touch. You can feel it in the stomach with the eyes, you know, it's like... So, so we did say and share that Nir Oz was conquered, and the IDF was not there. When they came, they didn't even find bodies except of 1 huge terrorist that the terrorists couldn't carry back. So it was 1 body of a terrorist, that's all. But what we learned later was so terrible was that after the militants came, the neighborhood came. Kids from 5, kids who can walk were there to raid on the kibbutz. They came, they took games and private things you would not even know. They took diaries that were found there and wrote in them very terrible things. We found parts of bodies on a table set like a meal. they saw in the cameras women, young women, old women, youth. It was the people who came in right back. That is something that is very, very hard when we do think and we do hope and for a strategic plan for the day after. But as a peace activist myself, I really do want to share with you, questions aren't easy. We have a very clear idea of what we should do, but it's not easy. I feel myself that I'm living in a moral hell. And I am a multicultural diversity, leadership within diversity, and cultural diplomacy expert. And that's what I did in university. This is what I did in business, connecting between business and through culture. It's hard. It's hard to think. So my family is absolutely going through the same thing like the Munders. My parents were not there, but they lost so many. It's countless friends, and still there are about 35 NIOS members there, and the community is just like here. It's family. And it's my parents. My brother is one of the 4 people who are trying to restore and recover in NIOS. I think I'm serious, and excuse me for being so personal, but I think he is on the edge of losing his wife, who is left alone to take care of our farm in Moshav Lachish. She's collapsing. It's something we talk about in the family, but I'm just sharing because the burdens of life are, as they always said, the ripples are awful. My parents gained maybe 15 to 20 years to their condition. That was prior, so they're absolutely... But they go to protest every Saturday night. They hardly walk. They hardly move, but they march.
Yeah.
And my sister is the logical one among us, so she helps every time I need some assistance of tables and Excels that I really, really don't like, and research for stuff. So we are all, as the heroes, the whole family is in it. We're considered a second or third circle, whatever the government decided to declare. But truly, when our family, who were kidnapped, and our cousins, who were survivors, couldn't cope, we were there from the very first day of October 7th. So in a way, we're the front brigade, you say? The front...
The front lines.
The front lines, brigades, right? Brigades, yeah. The front brigades in many, many ways. It's only lately, about 1 month, that Moran, my youngest cousin who survived the fire with her 2 daughters, is coming with us to the protest. But the cousins actually hold the family. Our parents can't do anything.
Same here.
Same like the Munders.
For the Munders, the first relation comes up to my father, who is 86, and their younger sister, who is 80, almost, no, 76 or 7. And they are not, they can't be in the streets. They can't march, for sure.
But today, I'm sure you can see I'm a little bit drained. I think I was dehydrated a bit. I'm drained of sorrow, I'm drained of everything, but I am not drained of hope. And I know that in a place where there is no hope, and Israel is in its worst times ever, we have to be the hope. We have to be the hope. So it does not matter. We know that those kidnapped and are still alive suffer more. This is what holds us. And who the dead has to be brought back to burial. And the last thing, just before we continue, I want to tell you there are many Taglit students that I met in Israel coming to the Hatufim Square, the kidnapped, and it's such a sparkle of light to see these young kids coming from America. It's amazing. And I go around with them and I talk to them and they ask all these smart questions. And one of them told me, what do you think of us that we come from the States? We visit and we go back. You know what I told them? I told them, you grow and you do your job in the United States because you guys are the diamonds on our David shield. We need the diamonds on our David shield. We need you. So I always tell them to thank their parents. So now I'm in front of their parents, and it's my opportunity to thank you. Thank you for growing to be such beautiful community wherever you are. Thank you for the Jewish-Israeli supportive education that you give to those Jewish young kids. And thank you for sending them to Israel to strengthen the relationship. But also thank you for being who you are and doing whatever you do, whether you're a teacher, a banker, or a farmer somewhere. Because our diaspora Jewish families are actually now playing a historical role, in my opinion, where you are the diamonds on our shield, on the general Jewish shield. And we need you, and we really need you. And this is why I'm so honored, really, truly, to be here, because saying it or writing it over on a post or an article in the newspaper isn't like the look you see me in my eyes telling you this and looking you over. So really thank you for being here, but really thank you for being a part of the David Shields.
Thank you so much, Afar. Thank you. You mentioned that your parents barely walk, and yet they go to the protests every Saturday night. And I would love if you guys could share a little bit about those protests and what you've been doing over these months.
Maybe I'll just give you a brief, and maybe Zayu, you will tell a little bit more about the Begin one?
Sure.
Okay, so the fact we have to protest is the greatest shame. The greatest shame. Because a government that was responsible and is responsible for what is going on for the last 10 months plus what happened before should have at least gathered itself, its morals, its values, and treat us, the families and the returnees and the kidnapped, as a government of elected people in a democratic system should have. It's a shame. And they don't do it. So people from the very beginning started to gather. And we're Jews, right? So we have all these groups that started working with the same goal, but a tiny little, not tiny, but a different mean of how they do it. So there is the forum that is a little bit more of a central line. There are all, I'm sorry to say, those people who lost their loved ones and lost their soldiers and are asking for revenge. And they dare calling themselves the Forum of Hope. And there are a few other groups. But then, one last comment before the Begin is that at the beginning, we took care of our families and we tried to see second citizenships or whatever. But really, you know, we still had the expectation that somebody in the government is going to take care. So at the very beginning, we didn't protest. We gathered as a community is a strength. And we did not say anything. We were not political. We were not doing anything that was out of line. We just wanted to advocate for an immediate release of our beloved ones. But then things started to be different because more and more and more people realized, hey, it's not October, it's November, and it's December, and suddenly a new year started. And guess what? We are here, and August 3rd will be the 300th day. And soon after, we're in this celebrating or commemorating a 1 year anniversary, 1 year. And Zayo and I feel like this has been one long day. I really, truly do not know how we are here in, what is it, July? So maybe a little bit about the Begin.
Okay, what Fat said was correct. For some of us, it was political from day one. I was political from day one. I have to say that I saw this, at October 7th. I felt that this is what the worst case scenario could be at October 7th. But Efrat is correct. At approximately on the 100th day, there were a lot more people all of a sudden shifting more to our stance, and I'll tell you a bit, I'll go back a bit. For the first days, the first weeks, even the first month, 2 months, people were still very much in shock. As Efrat said, not much political talk was inside. It was a talk of grief. It was a talk of, let's stick together because we need to stay together. We just got hit real bad. And it didn't really evolve to become the struggle. What it did become, and I'm talking about all the organization that grew behind, all around the hostage families, the forum, it had basically one major role, and this is taking care of the hostages' families, in terms of really, like I'll tell you a little secret. I know this from at least 4 mothers within the group of family hostages. They didn't cook a single meal after October 7th. Okay? So it starts with basics. Okay, providing them with some help in some social mundane works, mundane jobs. It's a hell of a struggle to because you think you have to spend your time on the. I think you understand, and so taking care of the families is one great, important, I dare say, holy job at this point in time, okay? But the HQ cannot lead a struggle to free the hostages because it is incorporating and embracing, and it has to embrace Joe Schmo and the other Joe Schmo, and these Joes don't think the same in anything. They're both Jewish, and and it's okay. You need to cuddle both Joes, right? But you can't lead a battle against some values that you think are wrong, or against some notions in society that you think are disastrous to the hostages when you're in this state of mind, of course. So this dual role of the HQ is actually not working. They can't lead the struggle, and we found out this when we tried to shout out things against the government, or not really against the government, just saying, simple, normal things that for an American would be too embarrassing to say, like the government should take responsibility of the lives of its citizens. And if they messed up, they should give answers.
Yes.
And this has never happened. What did happen is that the masks of the I am the prime minister of everybody has fell off. They are not playing this game anymore. They don't go to funerals of people that get killed from the kibbutzim. They go to funeral for people that get killed from the itnachluyot. They drew the line. They are not shy about it. They are not ashamed about it.
Itnachluyot means the settlements, yeah?
What they call the ציונות הדתית settlements.
The religious settlements.
They know ציונות. Most of you know the tachshits that we are talking about here. And yeah, so let's talk about the man himself. Coming here, let's talk about only the past 2 days. Coming here for this orchestrated.
I'm just going to interrupt for 1 second. So they were in Washington, D.C., just to remind you, before they came here, and they timed their visit to be here when Netanyahu would be speaking with Congress. Just a little context for where you were before this.
Yeah. 2 hours before Netanyahu's address to Congress, the two of us, together with our friend Maya Roman, were in this event in the Congress where each of us gave a speech of like 10 minutes, really long, and there were like 65 or 70 senators and congressmen inside the room. It was really...
It was a room full of, we think, almost 100 senator and congressmen, and maybe 50 more very important people. So the place we had a speech in the Congress about a few floors under the main house area was full of people. It was packed in a way that people were standing in a hall to hear us.
So we did this, and we got a lot of great responses. Actually, Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi said that she's not going to attend after hearing our speeches. A lot of people were there. No name dropping, but a lot of people said, listen, I'm not an American, but I recognized a lot of faces over there, okay? Jamie Raskin was playing with my son, and, it was fun.
He's a lovely gentleman.
Yeah, yes, he is. So what was the question? I'm sorry. Sorry? Oh, yeah. So this orchestration of a speech for a standing ovation, and I tell you, you guys heard the speech, you saw it, it was hard to see, and I was inside with my son, and I was, not moving uncomfortably in my chair for all of the speech. It was. I don't want to say the talk, but it was really like bringing some 4 war heroes, parading them. Here is the war hero without the legs, and everybody goes like this, and I go, wow, this is what we're seeing. At first, I felt ashamed for the U.S. Congress, really, that it has to see this kind of spectacles. And then I saw half of the U.S. Congress clap again and again and again and again and again. I said to myself, oh my God, really? I thought we were doomed. Okay? Luckily, I was sitting near the Republican side, so I thought everybody was standing and clapping. I didn't see the Democratic side where they were sitting and playing cool. So I got a wrong notion of what goes on, but really, this is what I thought. We're here to show the American public a different narrative than what Netanyahu is trying so hard and so well rhetorically and well painted. And, you know, his wife must stand right next to Noah. And the way I get my wife, I have to mention my wife in the speech. It's a Congress. I'll mention she's standing next to Noah Argamani when I'm pointing at Noah Argamani. So everybody will clap both of these women together. You know, everything is done in Israel. There was this article in the paper saying from a reliable source that Netanyahu prepares himself for each speech, these speeches, for a full week. He does nothing else, no state politics, no nothing but practice every gesture, every pause, and I think I don't need to convince you too much that this is probably the case, okay? This is what he does. This is the prime pinnacle of his work, talking to the Congress.
Remind you, he was educated in an American school in debate. So the American system of debate education is extremely successful.
Yeah, and he's selling this stuff.
Not joking, I'm serious.
Yeah, he's selling this stuff and people buy it, and it's ludicrous because, hey, you think, okay, it's politics, what do you care? No, I do care. My uncle's life's at stake. There are 114 other people that suffer right now as we speak, and he's doing his political maneuvers to gain some standing ovation instead of addressing the people he needs to give answer to in Israel and not several thousand miles away in Israel, where his responsibility really lies. Okay? Give answers to the Israeli people before you come to Congress for a standing ovation, because you have some war heroes. War has its heroes. Both sides of war have heroes. It's nothing. It's nothing.
Yes. So, yeah, I just, a short comment. I just wanted to tell you, honestly, I was so confused during that speech. It's not that I haven't seen so many diplomatics. I was working, I was bored for a while for the foreign ministry in Israel, in Japan. So I know the ceremonial, and I know that you do have the obligation to stand and to show your support. But when I saw the full house standing and cheering almost every second sentence, I was shocked. And then I was so angry and upset that honestly, I started tearing up and I couldn't stop my tears. I was sitting and crying, honestly crying during the speech. And I kept asking myself, what am I doing wrong? Why am I so different? What is going on with me that I'm so different of the people here? And it's not just cultural differences. And my last one sentence is about leaving the Congress by the Democrats. We didn't have time to talk about it, Zayo. We are working really hard, hardly sleeping. I didn't have time to discuss this with you, but I do want to raise a question. I know that some figures, it is very important for them not being in Netanyahu's speech. But as a cultural diplomacy expert and researcher, it raises some questions because the world is watching. So Americans, and including some of Israelis, do understand the act as is in American culture. But some people in Israel, whom I want on our side, may say, oh, those Americans, they are so double-faced, they actually say they want to help the hostages, but they're not coming to listen, so they are against Israel. And I don't know how it was perceived in the Middle East, and I don't know how it was perceived in Europe, in Russia, in South America. The only place I think I know, is how it was perceived in Japan. because I just lived there forever. So this is how I know. And that's a question I wanted to raise. I do not have the answer for it, but it is another obstacle that we have when we deal with Israel, Jews, and now the hostages, because our cultural differences are huge when it comes to such critical matters. And Netanyahu knows the game, and this is why he came here, and this is why, excuse my language, it is so disgusting, because he is using the American people by knowing the American people so well. He is a master of speech. He is a master of thought. And he does it well, and this is why I'm so upset. How come? How dare he? Though he knows how to do this, and he is lying. And remember that. He did not mention a deal. He did not say that word, D-E-A-L, was not mentioned. Why did he come here? Why did he come here? 120, now 18 people are still in Gaza. His people are in Gaza, and he's daring coming here. And what about the soldiers? I'm a mother to 3. So when I try to go to sleep at night, I need to worry, first, of what's going to happen to Gadi, second, to my soldiers, that one of them is constantly in Gaza, and then to my parents and my other family. This is insane. We haven't slept for 10 months. I stopped working, you can imagine. This is what we do. We devote our lives to this mission. And dare this man, how dare this man come to the Congress?
Yeah. Can you, one of you, speak a little bit more? So 2 more questions for you. If you'll speak a little more about the hostage deal and what you've been fighting for and the reasons you think it hasn't yet happened.
Yeah, sure.
There is a hostage deal on the table ever since October 8th. It didn't change much. It changed. It didn't change much. The basics are: don't start the war, or if you started, stop the war. Don't invade Gaza, or if you have invaded, get out of the places you have invaded. I'm talking, of course, from the Hamas side. Exchange the hostages according to some, 1 to 5, 1 to, I don't know, according to some ratio that we will negotiate, and let's talk about the day after. This is the deal. It didn't change ever since October 8th. We know for a fact that even when the media says the talks has stopped, there are always talks. There are like 4 channels through Egypt, through Qatar, through the UN, through the US. There are at least 4. One of them is always operating. 2 of them are always operating. There are always talks, okay? And the deal is on the table ever since October 8th. When my cousin Karen came with her mother and her son on October 7th in their father's golf cart, driven to Gaza, and they were taken to this family house where there was still dirty dishes in the sink and some laundry in the dryer. And they were kept there for like 10 days or so. And on the first day, when she was so, anxious and scared for her life, the captor, the guy that took them there, and it was his family's house, and he said, don't worry, Karen, 1 or 2 days and you're back home. Everybody thought that it's going to be like this, okay? Nobody imagined it would take that long, okay? What actually happened is, I'll tell you the full story, and you can check every aspect of the story that I'm telling you now. Please research it if you don't believe in 100%, okay? What happened is the Hamas got too many hostages for them to hold. They didn't plan for this. huge amount of hostages. They needed a couple, like, they thought, they envisioned 60, 70, 80. They got more than 200. Now, these are people to feed. These are people to house. These are people to guard. And each one of them, or if there's a safe place and you keep like 5 of them, you need some people to guard them. Think about it. It's multiplying. These are people that they need for fighting. These are soldiers. These are good people. And too many people need to take care of too many hostages. So the first hostage deal, and let me remind you, a week before the first hostage deal, the Hamas released 4 hostages without any condition. Just they said it's humanitarian. There were like 3 elderly women and one kid that had some precondition, and they freed him without any price. Just take them. They had too many. And they wanted to use this, of course, as leverage to get to the final stages of talking about the day after. Talking about the day after, let me explain a thing. This is the core. This is the core issue, because when in Israel you talk about complete victory and utter victory and final victory and blah 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 victory, what you're actually talking is Sinwar's head. That's it. That's it. This is the equivalent of
because there cannot ever be a total victory. This is a total loss. It will never ever be turned into a victory, no matter what the IDF success would be.
Correct. But, however, you are completely correct. We have lost, okay? But the way the government sees it, that this will be we can spin this, okay? This is like the greatest. And every time I hear the October 7th compared to the Holocaust, I feel cringed. This is not a Holocaust thing. It has nothing to do with the Holocaust. You want to call it a pogrom? Call it a pogrom. But this is not a Holocaust. This is a single day. The Holocaust was for 5.5 years, and it was completely different. Okay? Please stop comparing this to the Holocaust. The Holocaust was done over 5 years in different states, in different jurisdictions. This is a single place against an army that didn't show up. This is the greatest military fuck-up of all times. Pardon my French. Okay? The October 7th will be learned in the appropriate West Points of the world for ages. Okay, this is the greatest disaster that any army protecting a country ever endured. Okay, and people don't see it still this way because the shame is too much to confront. What gives me hope is remembering in 79, I think there was this hostage situation in Iran with the American Marines being taken hostage. And I remember reading about it, and most historians think that this is the reason why Carter wasn't chosen for his second term. Okay, this is kind of a thing that we know from history. And my interpretation is a hostage situation changes the society because it makes it they have to confront, the society has to confront very important and painful questions, okay, and they have to process it. I think these kind of processes in Israeli society has yet to be started. Okay, they will not start. It will take 2-3 more years until this really depth currents in Israel society will start doing the movements after processing really what happened on October 7th, not only for the Israeli people, for the Jewish people, for the Jewish way of thinking, for the Jewish way of diplomacy around the region. Everything, I believe, this gives me hope, as I said, everything will be changed dramatically because Israel society didn't even begin to understand what it went through. And prolonging the war just gets us further and further away from coming to terms with what happened here. Okay? Taking some responsibility for the things that we should be responsible for. Okay? Coming to terms with what we have become in the past years. When I was a child and visiting my uncles in Kibbutz Nir Oz, we were driving to Gaza and we would buy candies in Gaza's market. It was okay. I remember this from my lifetime, so I think, okay, in 40 years, I was 10 years, in 40 years I have seen Israel and the region drift drastically towards the extreme right. Not only Israel itself, but the other side also. They are like, two sides of the same coin. They're the mirror reflection of one another. Okay? And I acknowledge that the pain on the Palestinian side is tenfold in numbers, okay, than what we are feeling. It does not diminishes our right to say. And by the way, I've been to in January, I've been to New York in the Red Cross offices, and they said it up front. This is the #1 humanitarian crisis in the world right now. We are working on it endlessly because this is the #1 humanitarian crisis in the world. And this was January. We are now almost 200 days after.
But I just I do want to make one point. We have a lot to say about the Israeli government, a lot. They've been terrible. But truly, it started from Sinwar, and we should not forget Sinwar. And for some reason, Sinwar's name in the United States isn't mentioned enough. So I have a lot to say about my own government, and I will continue to say everything about my government because it is my government. I did not elect Sinwar. I have no contacts to Sinwar. I don't respect him. I think he is a terrible, monstrous being, but it's his fault. He started this. It could have ended very quickly. I cannot communicate messages of morals, of life to Sinwar. But he is not mentioned enough in the States, to my opinion. Who I elected, not him, but who the people of Israel elected is Netanyahu, and this is why we have a lot of criticism on Netanyahu. It has been too long. If he couldn't make it the first month, the second month, the third month, okay, maybe. But if you cannot do it, step down and make somebody do the job, because this is more important than your life and your political life and your survival. This is the survival of the Israeli state.
I just want to say, I think everybody in Israel understands that had Netanyahu want the hostages back, they would have been back. Had he wanted, I'm using my words specifically, carefully. Had he wanted them, they would have been back.
Yes.
Okay?
Gadi would be back.
Yeah, yeah. My last question for you, you mentioned a little bit about hope. And I want to know, what can we do here to continue to give you hope, and what kinds of actions can we take?
I'll start.
Yeah?
Okay. First, I want to emphasize the main theme of our trip, the main of our delegation here in the U.S. We are not our government. We are distinctly different from our government and from the way, the policies that the government stands for. We do not stand for this, and we need support. Being a human rights activist in Israel, even before October 7th, was hard, and it became harder every year, every year. We need the support of our fellow, peers in the way we think of the values we cherish and hold, okay, of human life versus, revenge, of saving our brothers versus sacrificing them to some, greater good that will never come. And this liberal way of thinking is being attacked all over the world. It's being attacked in this country too. And we need to form bonds with our allies around the world, because divided we fall, together we stand, or something like this, Pink Floyd. But yeah, it really is. It's the battle of our lifetime. I personally, I've never been involved in anything this important. Okay, that is really, we're fighting for the lives of our loved ones, and it's not dramatically phrased. It's the reality, and we are not our government. We need support, not supporting Israelis' policies, but supporting the human, the liberal, the humane side of Israel that still exists. Still exists. I don't know for how long, but it still exists. Okay, it still exists. And we need your help. We need your help because, by the way, practically speaking, the HQ that gets so much donations from the US is not spending it on our causes, okay? It's trying to soften our voices, coordinate our moves in a way that will in a way that will bring more audience. This is what they say. Non-controversial, we will bring more audience. We don't need more audience to soften the message. We need to shout the message out loud and in rage, because this took too long, and it's taken too long, and it's not going to a good place. It's not heading for the right direction. Israel is jumping head down into the abyss as we speak, and dragging the whole region around it.
Yes. This is what I want to say. Short things. One, the deal is not only for the fading lives that are still alive. It's not only for the families, it's for the sake of the state of Israel, the sake of the Jewish morals, and the sake of the Middle East and the coalition against evil, Iran, etc. We speak to specialists, security, whatever, they all agree. Even the Minister of Defense is now saying such sayings. So it is really not for us. Trying to make it the family's problem is evil at itself. It is for the sake of state, the region, and the world coalition. That's first. Second, I would like to ask, if possible, to use this amazing system you have here to writing to your representatives. And please tell them that you heard us, and please convey our deep appreciation and thanks to America, to Biden's deal. Please convey the message. You can mention Zahiro and me by name if you wish. Please thank them. That would be amazing, because we do think that everything happened because of pride. We should go back to a very humble place.
I met your senator, Butler, Senator Butler. Yeah, I met her 2 days ago in Washington. She was very supportive, and She was great, actually.
So writing to your representative is a great voice. If you are savvy and on the media, please try to maybe Google our activity and positively comment. We're so fed up of being looked at in a different way. And the last thing I would like to connect from what to do to hope is that I do want to mention one thing to share with you. Mr. Netanyahu loves autobiography. He is the son of an historian. He really cares for books. And he always mentioned he wanted to go down history remembered as Mr. Security or Mr. Economy.
Depends on the audience. Depends on what the audience wants to hear.
Yes. So someone came with a brilliant idea, and what we did, and now you're looking at the first edition of The Dark Legacy of Benjamin Netanyahu. And this book has more than 100 writers, from poets to leaders to Nobel scientists.
Military generals.
The IDF ex-generals, politicians, and us, the families. And this book is called Dark Legacy, The Abandonment of October 7th Hostages. You can Google Dark Legacy and read about our campaign. These books will be distributed in Israel for free. We have a small edition in English. And the point is the campaign, because we heard from a reliable source that he is nervous. He is nervous because he wants to be remembered differently. So, connecting this to hope, we declared that we are leaving the last chapter to be written by him. So the last chapter of our book is empty in order for him to write it in the correct way of bringing hope back to Israel and bringing all hostages back to where they belong. So please Google our book. Feel free to take our contact numbers. If you want a quick response, write a WhatsApp. If you're okay with a week, 2, 3, so Gmail. But we're overloaded. But feel free, if you have any comment, any request, any question, please do contact us. And thank you. And a big hug to each and one of you. Thank you.
Thank you both so much for being here. We're so grateful to get to hear from you and learn with you this morning. And I just really bless you both with continued strength as you do this really holy work in the world. And we are so blessed by your presence today. Thank you so much. And Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom. Sorry, it was a bit long, but it was meaningful. Thank you.